So welcome back. In this video we're gonna start building our dice game that we have previously seen, and we're gonna start with importing these images. So I have the dice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we're gonna use these as random numbers, as we discussed earlier, to show the users what dice number they got, and we're gonna start building our application now. The first thing I'm gonna do is to import this. I'm gonna import from PyQt5 .qt widgets everything, and we're gonna import from PyQt5. I'm gonna import the from Qt GUI also everything, and after that we're gonna import also from PyQt5 the Qt GUI that we have and Qt core for now, and then finally we're gonna import from PyQt5 or just let me just add it to here. Alright, so we're good. I'm importing from PyQt5 Qt GUI everything, and we're gonna use them later. But for now, let's start with the application. So I'm gonna build the Q application as usual, and I'm gonna build our Q widget. I'm gonna set the window title, so set window title into dice game, and then we're gonna set or fix the width into 1000. So that's it. Now what we're gonna do is to also set style sheet of our window or widget to be of background white for now. I believe it's always white, but we're gonna add it. And what we're gonna do now is to create our first button, that is the new game button, and it will be in a box, and we're gonna just set the layout of our widget to be this box. Alright, so to do that, I'm gonna create the new game button of type QPushButton. It will be new game, and then we're gonna set the cursor of this button to be pointing hand cursor, and this will help us. I'll show you first the button without this, and then we're gonna add it and see it in action. So what I'm going to do is to simply, let me create the box here. So box, it will be of QBox layout, and then what we're gonna do is to simply add this widget into the box. Right, now what we're gonna do is to simply set the layout of our widget to be this box that we have right here, and then we're gonna simply exit the system by executing the app. Alright, so we're good now. If I go ahead and run this dice game.py, we're gonna get something like this. Alright, so we didn't show the window. Now if I run it again, dice game.py, we're gonna get something like this. This is the new game button that we have, and it looks not so good at the moment, so we're gonna improve the style of this button. Now what we're gonna do is to simply add a pointer to this cursor or a pointer to this button. So notice that whenever I come across this new game button, nothing will happen with my cursor. Now to improve this, we're gonna simply add at new game.setCursor. We're gonna add Q cursor, and it will be of Qt core.qt, and then dot pointing hand cursor. Alright, so now we do have our cursor. Let me run this again, and we're gonna see that whenever I move across this button, it will be a pointing hand cursor, not like the normal cursor that we have. Alright, so we improved this. Now let's change the style or the CSS of this button. So let me go ahead and do it here. Now to use CSS in PyQt5, what you actually need to do is to simply use the set style sheet, just like the one we used here. So set style sheet into, and then open the parentheses. Now inside this parentheses, I'm gonna create our style sheet, and it will be of this type. Now I'm gonna start with the position, so I'm gonna make it absolute. And let me just start by saying that you don't really need to go into the CSS details. You just can copy this from here, and if you're not familiar with this, no problem, you can just go ahead and take this and place it in your set style sheet, because at the end of the day, this is a PyQt5 course, not a CSS one, but it looks nicer to just have a good looking PyQt5 application. So if you're good, you can continue with me as long as you want. So width, we're gonna have width of 200 pixels. I'm gonna have a 50% right, and I'm gonna have the color at this one. It looks nice. Now what we're gonna do is to simply just have the font family at Lato, and then we're gonna have the font size to be 20 pixels, and I'm gonna have to transform this text into uppercase, and finally I'm gonna set the font weight into 300. Alright, so now let me just run this again, and we do have some problems here. Right, so I forgot to add this semicolon right here, and let me just run this again, and we're gonna get our button indicating that this is a new game. And as we can see, we do have the button. It is a nice looking button, but we can always remove the borders, so let me just add it here. So I'm gonna have to set the border into none. Alright, so I believe we're good for now. Alright, so that's it basically. This is for the first button. One addition might be is to just increase the font size whenever we hover over this button. Now to do that, we can actually do it in a pretty simple way. We're gonna add here a hover, and we're gonna increase the font size from 20 pixels to 30 pixels. And now let me just close this, run. We're gonna get the same exact thing as before. However, when I hover over this one, the font size will increase to 30 pixels instead of 20 pixels. Now, this is it basically for the first button. I know that it took a long time to just build one button, but remember that we built the whole application with the box and so on. Now, in the next video, we're gonna start by creating the player's side and adding the dice into it. So that's it basically for this video. See you in the next one.